So, International Women's Day just happened, and to be honest with you, nothing gets my attention more than a strong, independent woman who knows what they're wanting to do in life. And I'm not saying that as a sarcastic thing, that genuinely is amazing. So today on Reflections, I'm actually going to be reflecting on some of the characters that made the strongest impact on me as female main characters, and strong female characters in general, that I feel like really deserve a little bit of attention if they don't already have it. Because let's be honest, some of these characters are just phenomenal, and they have the acclaim to go with it. Without further ado though, let's talk. So obviously, there's actually a fair bit of different strong female characters, but there are a couple that really get my attention. And I'm not talking about the fucking Bella Twilight or fucking Hunger Games ass shit, because I know everybody's like, oh, Katniss Everdeen. I'm personally not a fan. I feel like she gets told to do a lot of things, and she essentially is forced into almost every real decision that Katniss makes. So that, I don't consider her a strong enough character for me to really care about her. Now, talking about those characters I do find strong are characters like the following. So, one of the first people that I'm going to bring up on this list is going to be one of those nostalgic blasts from like way back, if you guys aren't familiar. Kim Possible, from the show of the same name.
Kim Possible! So what's the sitch?
Was a female protagonist that took the typical action genre tropes and completely subverted them, flipped them on their head, and said, you know how you normally have a strong male protagonist who's telling the female sidekick or whatever to do whatever? That's exactly the role we're going to give the female in this particular show.
Run! Lip gloss me!
And we're going to make all the females on this show incredibly strong. Kim herself is actually characterized by her ability to do literally anything she puts her mind to. She's a go-getter, type A personality, the type of person that you'd see huge success in the real world nowadays. Now, what makes her such a compelling character is that in the show, she's actually able to balance this heavy A personality, A-type personality, and a human element. She still has all the same insecurities, feelings, attitudes, feelings of a high school girl, and it's really dealt with well in the show. They kind of show how she's insecure at times. She might not have all the confidence that she necessarily exudes at an almost constant basis. She has her own crushes, her own feelings, her own divisions on different topics. But with all of that, it deeply humanizes her and makes her a character you can totally relate to. Girl, guy, friggin' transgender, whatever your preference happens to be. The reality is, Kim Possible is a character that anybody can get behind. She's a go-getter who sets her mind on something and then immediately goes and gets it. So if there's anything you can be sure of, it's that Kim Possible, when she sets her mind on something, she will achieve it. And that is part of the reason that she is such a strong female main character protagonist. The other thing is that she has a complete inversion, the complete foil to show her strong characteristics in the weaker male main character, Ron. He's basically what you'd see in a typical female main character in this type of setting in a regular sort of show. You'd see the character who's flimsy, needs to be told what to do, needs to essentially be guided step by step on how to interact, and to further plot points or whatever the case may be.
Ah! Okay, I get it!
Now, as time goes on, Ron himself actually does develop a lot, but compared to Kim, who is the crux of the show, the best character in my personal opinion, maybe second to Shigo if she were to be second to anyone. But that actually perfectly transitions us to the next character that I'm about to talk about, which is Shigo.
You're not Shigo, you think?
Here we have the typical male boss and female underling sort of dynamic that is present in a lot of typical media.
Do you have any idea what listening to you is like? It is so boring!
Examples can be seen in the sense of The Incredibles, where you had Syndrome and... Fuck, I don't even remember the girl's name. Syndrome and his underling, he treated her like shit. Here's the total flip of that. You have a Syndrome, totally aggressive, totally sarcastic, very powerful and intimidating character in the female of Shigo. She's someone who has a stage presence that if you were to meet her in real life, she'd intimidate you like that.
Ooh, sorry. No prize for second place.
So, why that's so incredible is because it's a total flip of the standard stereotype. On top of this, of the underling being a weaker character by default. She's actually the stronger character and is able to accurately demonstrate the flaws of her male counterpart more evidently because she's such a strong character.
Here you go, Chief. One stolen battery thing. Feliz Navidad.
Excellent, Shigo. Drac Force 1 is complete.
Now, Shigo herself also demonstrates her strength of character in her banter between Kim and herself.
I'm feeling pretty nasty, so count to 10 or something.
Now, she is physically able and demonstrates this against Draken, but it comes that much clearer when pitted against a character that's just as characteristically strong as Kim is. What you see is level-headed characters exchanging quips, ideas, basically the sort of thing you'd see two catty girls kind of conversate over, but at the same time showing that they're very intelligent, informed individuals, and they're using them almost as manipulation tools, especially in Shigo's case. Some of the things that she says will either egg Kim on.
Need a little help? Are you offering?
All right, look, I just don't want to lose to a giant flamingo, okay?
Or work as a way to distract her, or use it as a deflection tool, which, if you look at it from a psychological perspective, is brilliant.
Ooh, Kimmy got an upgrade. Not bad, huh? Yeah, but still not in my league.
And you have to assume, as a villainess, she's using every ability in her arsenal to get the upper hand, because as you're the villain, there's no real sense of chivalry and honor, even though, in some sense, Shigo still embodies this idea. She's juggling so many different characteristics and character types, and she does it so well. So that is why someone like Shigo is pretty much, if not the same level as Kim, then better, I would say, in a lot of ways. Now, she's a really strong, cool character, and honestly, if you haven't seen the show, I recommend it, because honestly, I'm like a total fanboy, so I apologize for that. Okay, so moving on, we've actually got Hermione, as I honestly thought her name was pronounced forever when I read her as the character in the books. And I finally realized that Hermione is pronounced that way when the movie first came out, and I got introduced to a strong, intelligent, quick-witted, and comparing to the other male cast, an absolutely incredibly talented individual. Now, how this really comes across in the character of Hermione is the fact that whenever there's an issue, whenever there's something that the characters need to have solved, they almost immediately go to Hermione. She's the one who's incredibly resourceful. She knows what she's talking about. She's always the one who's essentially, I guess you would call it like the plot device, because she's always got something figured out. She knows what she's doing.
Sorry, Ron, but seeing as you can't walk.
She's not the type of person to be like, oh, quiet in the back, and necessarily be told what to do by the other characters. Now, this also makes sense if you consider the fact that J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter novels that Hermione is from, is also a female, and she can write those characters from her own perspective in a stronger light more effectively to relate better to women, because she has that personal experience. Now, I'm not obviously saying that because she's a woman she writes a woman better, or that if it were a man, they'd write a man better. I'm just saying that from that perspective, they'd have a more niche and nuanced interpretation of the character, and they'd be able to better portray things that females in the audience would be able to relate to. Now, what's really awesome about this is actually, if you look at JK as a person, she's a very intelligent individual who is obviously going to be standing up for female rights and individualism, because J.K. Rowling is actually a incredibly strong woman. She's a really big character, I would say, to look up to personally on my own end, just because she essentially went from the underdog position of being underrated using the acronym JK, and people actually thinking she was a male writer. Now, what's really cool is that she was able to rise to notoriety because her books were written so well. And if you actually understand, her acronym JK actually stands for Joanne Kathleen, by the way, if you're not familiar or don't realize that. That's what her initials stand for, which just an interesting little tidbit I felt I needed to add. Anyway, so she's a really cool character that I'd like to talk about, because she's not going to necessarily give in to gender stereotypes that most people would say, okay, so it's definitely got to be this role or whatever. Like the other females I've listed on this list, she has a tendency to subvert it. You know, again, I feel like I keep going back to quiet and not spoken unless spoken to kind of idea, but she has the ambition and the fortitude to actually go out, make a name for herself, make a mark, and I think that's incredible. Now, you've also got people such as Meg Turney, who actually recognize their brand, recognize their attitude, and actually recognize what people have an interest in, whether or not it's the fact that they're very fit, and most people find that attractive, which they're actually owning their own sexuality and marketing to it, which is actually something I've had a debate with recently with some people. The fact that women, you know, are able to market their own body because, one, they're confident, and two, because it's a part of the market that people have an appeal for. You know, whether you want to admit or deny it, it is reality. There are people who have an interest in that. Now, I think it's fantastic when people take charge of that and are able to use it for their own personal benefit to further themselves and further their own interests, such as Meg Turney, where she does her own photo shoots as a model, but she's also got her own geeky interests that make her a nuanced individual. But anyway, guys, that's really all I gotta say. Honestly, there's tons more I could go into. I could go for fucking days, especially if I get into books. Two series I'd recommend. Skullduggery Pleasant features a badass female main character who does not take no for an answer, kicks ass, takes names, and doesn't care what you think of her. So I would definitely recommend her if you want a strong female role model. And Throne of Glass. It's a series about a female assassin rising to power, and honestly, if it's as good as the jacket and the first couple of pages have informed me, because I personally want to start reading it as soon as I can, I think it is definitely a read for you guys to go for. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, subscribe for more, because there will be more next Friday. Oh, and heads up, by the way, if you guys want to stay up to date, I have a Facebook, a Twitter, and an Instagram for the Splice Night. On Splice Night on all platforms. It'll be up here, basically, letting you guys know where to contact me on those, and it'll also be in the description. That said, guys, that is really all I have to talk about. Thank you so much for watching, and by the way, there will not be a Thursday vlog next week, just because, first of all, I mean, this last one, that explaining it, didn't really get a whole lot of traction, so I'm saying it here, but that said, guys, I think that's pretty much it. If you guys are interested in other videos, you can click over here for my last vlog, and you can also click down below for my last reflections video. Now, guys, if you're interested in more content, obviously subscribe for more. Hit that notification bell so you see every time I update. And yeah, but I will be on vacation from Sunday to the Thursday, and I may actually be doing something on the Friday as well. I'm not entirely sure. But it may be very difficult for me to get things out, so I'm trying to get these done ahead of time. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you guys later, and yeah, keep on reflecting, guys.